Okay, we've come a long way, haven't we? All the way from culture to religion, which is one of the standardly recognized parts of culture. And what I want you to get a hold of in in the case of religion, you'll see quite a bit of this in your text, and that is that religion is part of the whole picture of how societies work that includes religion and not least of all economy, which we sort of studied last week in our getting our views of material relationships between culture and economy. But and this idea that there's some kind of a strong relationship between religion and economies, 150 years old at least, and probably 1,500 years old. But doesn't it isn't necessarily insidious. Like the people that I work with in the state of Campeche in Mexico, they have what we refer to as an annual round, a set of feasts around the year, and that's something that you're familiar with. What you need to grab a hold of is that we're a Western culture that's kind of doesn't feel very positive toward a lot of primitive religions, and but religious beliefs work hand in hand with staying alive in a lot of these economies. Like the people in Campeche, they have a feast called the Feast of the Three Crosses, which is usually around the 3rd of May, and then 2 weeks later they have another feast, and these have certain religious connotations. Like the three crosses are, as the word now is syncretic. The three crosses are something that's been going on for 3,000 years, probably at least in the Maya lowlands. Right now there are three crosses, and three crosses obviously refers to Jesus' crucifixion on Calvary and the two thieves and all of that. But before the Spanish came, it was probably three stones that the Maya have been building temples with three cones on top of them for at least a couple or 3,000 years, and there's even a possibility that there was some kind of a revitalization movement a few hundreds or thousands of years ago, and before that it was three stalks of corn. And so these three stalks, I haven't been able to figure out exactly what all the details are about the threes, but they obviously have something to do with um, the structure of the society. A friend of mine thinks that the three parts of the society are military, religious, and government, and that may be the case, and that those things may have been, the three stalks or three stones or three crosses may have stood for different things in long past societies. But what happens with the three crosses is that that's supposed to be the day that the rains come and the day that everybody gets prepared for planting the corn. And the corn's kind of like the keystone in a whole complex of agricultural products, so it needs to get in the ground so the beans can grow on the corn stalks, and those sorts of tropical garden relationships. And then 2 weeks later is another thing, another feast, and that feast turns out is supposed to mark the closing of the planting season and sort of a celebration of having gotten the job done. And there's all kinds of angles on this that are important, like it's fun, it puts everybody on notice that it's time to plant the corn, and I can imagine in a subtle sort of way it says you don't want to be waking up in 2 weeks and not able to attend the feast. You don't want to be embarrassed because you didn't get your corn in the ground. And there are probably a lot of other things a lot of other social innuendos that go into that we can't even imagine. So it's not a it's not a horrible link between economy and religious beliefs. It's a very subtle and necessary one for that society. It's only in the last decade or so that it's gotten to the point that there are more people living in cities than there are living in the countryside around the world. And you can think of that another way, that even now we're not so far from half the world living in the Neolithic. Agricultural people on the countryside, not living in the cities. And you'll see in the chapter that there are a lot of other things that are of interest to relative to religion. But I think that's one of the core pieces of information that you'll want to pay attention to.